Good morning, all. It is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, and it is the Tuesday edition of the Morning Buzz here at 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. I am Amanda Marino, and I am joined with my favorite people here on the Morning Buzz.
Caitlin Aristisava.
And
Was I just named for someone? Like
No, pardon me, I was on mute.
And Ben, since you talked.
Oh, I thought you said you said Anne. I was like
I heard Ben too. Like it sounded like Ben.
Okay, I'm sorry. And Ben Petrick is with us as well, of course. It is a lovely Tuesday. It's a little cold outside, but you know what? I'm gonna say we had a lovely sunrise this morning. I was driving to school and it was gorgeous out. I was listening to some Harry Styles. He won that Grammy over the weekend. I was listening to some Harry Styles jamming out on the way here this morning. It's a good way to start vibes. Good way to start the day. But I also know there's another way to start the day, and that is with a news and sports cast. So, Isa, why don't you take it away with your newscast?
Of course, you're listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. I'm Isa Winek with your daily news update. Now, according to the CDC for U.S. News, approximately 10% of the U.S. population has been fully vaccinated. It was calculated that about 33 million people received the Pfizer, the BioNTech, and the Moderna vaccines, or the single dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Roughly 64 million people have received at least one dose of this vaccine. With more than 29 million documented cases of the coronavirus in the new year for this whole past year in the US, more people have now been fully vaccinated than originally infected with the virus, which is great news. As more people get vaccinated, many officials and leaders say that we can slowly start loosening restrictions and start bringing things back to normal. Now, another big chunk of U.S. news, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is keeping the pressure on Joe Biden to forgive the $50,000 student loan debt on a federal level. The New York Democrat said that on Monday that the Justice Department is currently conducting a legal review on whether Biden has the authority to issue blanket forgiveness on student debt. But Biden has repeatedly resisted the claim from Schumer and other Democrats like Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren to cancel the $500 per student borrower loan debt forgiveness, making it very clear during a CNN town hall meeting last month that he does not support the idea. More for world news. The Vatican's declaration that the same-sex unions are a sin to the Roman Catholic Church cannot assure that it's no surprise to the LGBT Catholics community in the United States. Even though this was expected, it strongly hurt the population nevertheless. Marianne Judy Burke, executive director of Dignity USA, said her organization's membership includes the same-sex couples who have been together for decades, preserving in their love for one another in the face of bias and family rejection during these times. She states, quote, "The fact that our church at its highest levels cannot recognize the grace in that and cannot extend any sort of blessing to these couples is just tragic," quote, she states. The Vatican doctrine holds that gays and lesbians should be treated with dignity and respect, but that gay marriage and gay sex is considered instinctively disordered and that the same-sex unions are still considered sinful by the Vatican. For weather in Montclair, it is quite chilly outside with a high of 39 and a low of 35, with a 20% chance of rain in the later evening around 5 p.m. Today, we will have a 44% humidity with a later sunset at 7:05 p.m. This concludes our news update for March 15th, 2021. March 16th, 2021. For WMSC Upper Montclair, I'm Isa Winek, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Isa, for that lovely newscast. And while we're at it, why don't we head right over to sports with Ben with our 2-minute warning?
How do you have so much energy, Isabella? Dang, oh my god. You're like up. I'm like not even close. I'm like my eyes are still look like they're sleeping, but like the brain is semi up. But the so here is the sportscast. So if you uh if you didn't know, yesterday was the first day of free agency. So for the NFL, so all the players that you know and love from your team are now on mine because the Patriots spent more money in this one year, in this one 3 hour segment of free agency than they ever have in the last decade in free agency. The Patriots acquired the most players last night, include alongside with the Texans. A lot of interesting moves done. The most notable ones were the offensive lineman that was from the Patriots. Joe Tooney went to the Kansas City Chiefs for a massive deal. Matthew Judon went to the Patriots. Jonnu Smith went to the Patriots as well. And the biggest free agent on the market, Shaq Barrett, went back to the Tampa Bay Bucks. So that's for the NFL. In the MLB, they're all gearing up for the regular season. There was a crazy hit by pitch yesterday. I'm not going to say what happened there, but it was a hit by pitch, and it was very not good to see. And alongside the NBA, lots of interesting games coming up that are playoff implications, but nothing of like crazy note. But the number one news story, I saved it best for last, is back to the NFL, where all-time legend Drew Brees retired. I like to nickname him Drew Breezus because he always made miracles happen. But he was an awesome guy, and he's gonna stay back home with his kids. And his like retirement video with his kids were adorable. Um, so it was a very crazy week in sports. Nothing like that stood out besides Drew Brees, but a lot of interesting stuff. And of course, if you are into the NFL, I'd keep your eye on Twitter or on Google because of free agency. But that's about it. My dog is really like bothering me and not letting me move, so I'm kind of stuck here.
You're such a cute dog.
Well, thank you for that sportscast. I like, again, I think I've said it on the buzz before. I don't really technically follow sports, so it's always nice to get a little like briefing from you, Ben, because it gives my daily dose of the sports, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I feel like I do it just enough to unprofessionally that like you can kind of get it. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay,
oh.
then. But anyways, moving on from our sportscast, obviously we're gonna hit right into some of the first stories, and we're gonna first talk about one of the stories that Issa mentioned in her newscast this morning, which was about the Catholic Church. Yesterday, on Monday, LGBT Catholic LGBT Catholics were stung by Vatican's rebuff of same-sex unions. Obviously, before we get into this story, I do want to mention that any opinions that are expressed today on the show are of the hosts and contributors and not of the station. So before we get into all of that, but basically yesterday, the Vatican declared that same-sex unions are a sin at the Roman Catholic Church and cannot be blessed. So yesterday, Marianne Duddy Burke, executive director of Dignity USA, said her organization's membership includes same-sex couples who have been together for decades, persevering in their love for one another in the face of bias and family rejection. She says, quote, "The fact that our church at its highest levels cannot recognize the grace in that and cannot extend any sort of blessing to these couples is just tragic." So it wasn't really necessarily a great day if you were a Catholic person, that if you were part of the LGBTQ community. Obviously, some people say, well, hasn't this been something that's been going on for years? Yes, but Pope Francis, who is our current pope, was someone that was a little more supportive of this matter for years. So this came as like a kind of a shock to us and a lot of people yesterday. So before we dive more into this, any first thoughts about this?
I was just surprised to hear about this because didn't Pope Francis say recently how like people have the right to be in a family like all people or something like that? And I know that was a really big deal and people were talking about how that was just more accepting and stuff like that. So when I saw this headline, I was like, what? Wait, didn't he just, I feel like that just kind of goes back on what he said.
Weird, but like like we know it's like if one person has this opinion and then it's like I guess the rest of the church doesn't mean they have to follow that opinion, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yes, he is of the highest order, but it's like, you know what I mean, if that makes any sense. So I did want to pull a quote because obviously this is a subject that everybody's been talking about with this. There's this priest named James Martin, who actually is a Jesuit priest, writer, and editor for the large Jesuit magazine America. So he actually posted a little Facebook post yesterday, kind of talking his opinion and ideas of this. Because especially with a lot of the politics and a lot of things happening beside the Catholic Church and stuff right now, he felt like he wanted to give a little message, especially since of his journalism background and such. So he said, "First, I want to say to my LGBTQ friends that I am with you in prayer. Second, know that the journey of the church with the LGBTQ people is a long one, and Christ is with us. LGBTQ people, families, friends, and allies will never leave us, but it is a journey. A few years ago, a young gay man told me that Howard Gray, S.J., a great Jesuit spiritual master, said to him, 'God loves you and your church is learning to love you.' So we are a pilgrim church, learning, changing, and growing, even in the middle of what may seem to be like people's disappointments and heartbreaks." And I found this very interesting because he continues on, but I think that message he says there is that we're learning to love you. That specific one, God loves you and your church is learning to love you. I think that's kind of something that we can kind of take with us and learn that, like, if we look at our society right now, a lot of things that we're like, we do now and we think is like a normal act, not even talking about this, I'm talking about everything else, is not the same that it was 20 years ago. There's a lot of things that have changed. And I think that goes with the same thing with the Catholic Church, that we are learning as well, and everybody around you is learning as well. So they're trying to look at it more as a positive outlook and saying, don't be discouraged by this. This is not the end here. Like, it just takes time.
Yeah, but that's important too, because at least there's a little bit of hope, and it's kind of just a reminder, like it's not the end.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean,
I feel at least they're working towards it, and I think that's important.
Exactly, and I think you got to realize, even years ago, like just a few years back, we don't even have to go that long. Same-sex marriage wasn't even allowed to be a thing in the United States.
Yeah.
That happened under the Obama administration, where it was like, you're allowed to across the country now. That wasn't something that existed 20 years ago across the United States. Yeah, maybe certain places, but not countrywide. So I think that's something we have to remember, that like we're still working towards that. And I think that's the way to keep looking forward for this. Isa, Ben, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, if I would add, I would say that especially for situations like this in the Vatican, it really depends on the people behind it, the people who are looking at these matters and really making these decisions. As you stated, that the Vatican has changed a lot over the years, but there were still some things that haven't changed and still some things that remain the same or remain stagnant. I feel like the issues themselves are so complex that it's even hard. Well, it's very difficult to have an opinion alone. But I feel that we, as a people, we must remember that it's all about staying together, cultivating that love, cultivating that togetherness, that solidarity, and pushing forward. Not necessarily being against any particular groups of people, but remembering that we are in this path of working together. And yes, this journey has started and it will be a longer journey, but as long as we keep at it, we will get to where we want to get to.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think even continuing to look at this article, and this article is from AP News, by the way, for anybody that's more interested in it. They actually took a little bit of the quote that I just read from James Martin, and they actually said, and this is something important to remember, what is the alternative, he asked, to live in fear of the future that God has in store for us, or to doubt that Jesus is on the side of those who feel in any way marginalized? And that's something else to keep in mind too. Are we gonna try to worry about this every day, and that's something to go forward to. I think you just got to go with that, if that makes any sense, and just kind of hope for the best, that in the future that the Catholic Church will be more accepting of that. Ben, you look like you want to say something. But then again, you always do.
I do?
You always have that face. So.
What's that face? Is it just...
Anyways, Ben, you're talking now, so there you go.
All right. My opinion is the fact that well, of course my opinion isn't the radio's opinion, but the like my thought is just first of all, everything's a sin, no matter what we do. I mean, like we're not supposed to have relationships before marriage, So like
That's actually a good point to
that is
look at
like
that. Yeah.
everything. So basically, at the end of the day, if that guy up there seems to which is Jesus, if he forgives us for everything that we do, if you're looking at it on a perspective of will God forgive me or any of that, I believe that we all kind of are troublemakers, so I don't think you should worry about that. But on the other end, it's this basically they're fighting the people that just don't believe that they should be who they are. They're really fighting those people, and those people, I mean, at the end of the day, who cares? Like they can go do whatever they want. Like they if they're gonna be ignorant and be like that, then just don't give them the light of day, and then just know that just be with that guy if you believe in him. Be with Jesus if you believe in him, and if you don't, then okay. Like I don't see like just do what you do. Who cares?
It's
Just
also,
do.
I was going to say, it's also important to note, and like you saying that actually brings up a good point, that in this article, it touches on the fact that most churches, if they're already doing that, like blessing gay marriages and stuff, they're going to just continue doing it and just do it under the table. And it's just going to be a lot like more on the DL, like the down low on those kind of things, like it's like not many people, I mean, unless you're really against it, you're not going to really stop. So if you've been doing it all this time since it's become like you were able to, like, you're probably just going to continue. And that's what it also wants to touch on too. So it might not have as big of an impact as like we think it might.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely gonna go towards like different priests who see it like their own personal opinions, I guess. Like, so if they agree with it and they're okay with it, like you said, they'll still do it under the
Yeah,
table.
I mean, like I just read you a quote from this priest, and he's okay with it. So it's just like there's probably a ton of other people out there that are also okay with it, and that's something to keep in mind as well. And I wouldn't be discouraged yet. So
Yeah, and if I may also add on to what you said, Amanda, we need to also remember that the Vatican, yes, while their opinion is very important, they don't really have the physical ability to speak for the many churches in our country yet, like let alone around the world. So while what they state is very important and many churches do follow, like you said, it's also very subjective per community, per group of people to what they believe is right and what is wrong. And in the end, like we mentioned earlier, it's really what helps the community, what lets them to be closer to God that really matters.
Yeah, I completely agree. And with that, I think we are about to move on with our next story. So, keeping with our news stories from AP, I guess right now, I found this article and I think it's really funny, honestly. And I know I was talking to Caitlin about it pre-show, and it's just so random, and I just don't understand it. But anyway, so the article is about a specific university, the University of California. They are now offering students $75 to avoid spring break travel this year due to COVID. And if anybody's watching
Ben's
on
reaction.
Facebook, if anybody's watching on Facebook right now or watching on YouTube later, Ben's reaction was priceless. So it says the University of California is offering students $75 to be used for staycations to encourage them to avoid non-essential travel during their spring break. Students who choose to stay home during the March 22nd to 26th spring break will get the money in gift cards. Student responses has been awesome, the university said in a statement. So,
Oh really? Have they been awesome?
and it's the article kind of continues to say like kind of what a lot of schools are doing this year. Like if we look at Montclair State, I mean we skipped spring break completely. Other colleges like Texas A&M opted for a 3-day weekend instead of spring break, so people wouldn't be like tempted to go somewhere. And I know yesterday on the Monday Buzz we were kind of chatting about it too, and I think it's funny because kids are going to just do whatever they want anyway. If they want to go on travel, they're going to go hop on a plane and just go to Florida and do whatever. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm going to say. Like, what?
I think this is like a kind of a nice effort. But to me, I'm also thinking about why I think it's so funny is I think it's funny that they thought $75 was going to get people to like just stay home. Like I think they might have needed to offer like a little bit more. But also it's $75 and if you're not working right now or whatever, $75 might be a nice like little bit of cash to have in your pocket.
I'd take $5. I'd be like, I'm not going anywhere.
I mean, I would not complain.
Abe Lincoln,
if you hear that, Montclair State, Ben will take $5 and he will not leave his dorm room.
No, we got to up the ante here because clearly there's competitors. So, like, I'll just go to that California college and,
I think it's funny that, like, universities and, like, jobs and things are trying to pay their employees off in a sense, like, or like, students off in a sense to just, like, not, like, don't get COVID. Like, here's some money.
Here's some money. Please like, don't get sick.
I'm okay with that. You can pay me off. I will keep sending fake threats that I'll go out. I'm gonna go to Miami.
Why I say that specifically too with
$30, I'll be like, oh no, I'm not going to Miami.
Why I say that with jobs specifically too is I just found out I was working over the weekend and I found out that my job is going to pay me $80 to go get the COVID vaccine. So I was like, okay, like, I mean, I already got the first dose. So I mean, like, whatever. But I mean, like,
I wish somebody would pay me to get the vaccine. Bro, I really do.
Bro, what do you mean? You got paid $80 to get
I mean, I mean,
what?
have you not heard that, Ben? That, like, a lot of stores are offering that. Yeah, a lot of places are offering like $80 to $100 or something a little more to go get a vaccine. Money. And also they'll pay for your travel too to go get it.
Bro, what? Bro,
have you not heard about this, Ben?
No. What?
So basically I just have to fill out a little form online and I basically they like I say when I get the dose and stuff and then they'll just give me $80 into my paycheck.
My question with that is how do they know if you're not if you're not making false statements or if you're lying?
I don't know if I have to submit like the card yet. All I know is I definitely have to submit the dates that I got it and which one I got. And then that's all I saw so far. I haven't really because they said wait till you got the 2 doses if you got a 2-dose one and like just then put it in at the end. But I just found out about this on Sunday. Like I wasn't even notified as an employee. Like one of my coworkers told me about it. And then I looked through our app and I was like, oh, there it is. And I didn't even know about it. Because they didn't tell us. They kind of just like made you like you had to go search for it. But a lot of other companies are doing that. I know like Aldi, I think Trader Joe's, things like that are doing that.
Markets. Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to the college thing too, with that, I don't know. Do you guys like, would you take $75? Would you like, if we had a spring break hypothetically this year, because of the COVID thing, like this year, if anybody doesn't know, Montclair decided to start a semester 2 weeks later, and we're going 1 extra week at the end of May, and then we are skipped spring break. And with that, if we had a spring break here, I asked the question to you guys, would you take the $75 and just stay in your dorm room? Or would you just go home?
Wait, like not to go home? I thought it was like not to travel. Well, I don't know. For me, going home's not really traveling. I was really close,
so that's different. But if you lived in California and you were going to school in California and you had to travel home to New Jersey, you wanted to see your family, hadn't seen them in a little bit, would you take $75 just to stay on campus?
See, I didn't consider this perspective, but yeah, I totally would because for the most part, I don't go anywhere. Like that 1 week, that's nothing. I would sit in my room and watch Netflix all day. You're paying me to sit in my room and watch Netflix all day, to be honest. So, yeah.
What? New Girl Marathon. Easy.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
Nothing. Like nothing. Or you know what, Kaylin? Want to grab those $75, have a poker tournament? It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. We can make more money.
Yeah, like what?
Do we think it's too... Oh, yeah, sorry, Issa, you go.
Yeah, it's all right. I would say that especially during this time, well, at least for me, I wouldn't be inclined to travel as much in the first place because I just know personally if I would go on vacation, I would want to go for more than a week, just knowing like I want to completely relax and have a great time. And that's number one. So like I don't want to worry about going back to school and finishing assignments, or I know some professors like to assign things over break just in case. Yeah, oh my. But that's number one. Number two, also with the pandemic slowly subsiding, the coronavirus cases are still wonky. It's not completely decreased. Like it's going up and down. It's hard to really predict. I just personally would stay local just for my own safety and the safety of others. So it just not even the fact that the guidelines state that, but my own predispositions to like my experiences in the pandemic, I would rather stay home. So yeah, I would just take $55, relax.
No, but I like that you pointed out like just a week, because I didn't think about that. A week is not a long time, especially when you consider like travel time, and like the time you actually get to spend with your family is really short, and that's just a lot to risk to be like, I mean, I love my family, but that's just,
I guess hypothetically, like, what if you did have the virus in a sense and like you were asymptomatic and then you just came home for like a week, just a few days, and you're like, you potentially got someone else in your family sick, and then like you were like, wow, I could have just made $75. Now I got someone sick. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. If you look at it that way too, I mean, especially if you're coming from far and you're not like 2 minutes away from school or like under an hour, you know what I mean? I don't know. But do we think $75 is too high, too low? Do we think any of that kind of stuff? Would you be more inclined to like stay in your dorm longer if you got more money? Like, I don't know.
Oh, I'd stay the whole semester if they gave me free tuition.
Oh, well, the free tuition's a little bit of a different story then.
Be like, listen, if you come up here and pay for room and board, you don't have to pay for the classes if you don't move. I'll be like, I'm gonna stock up.
Literally, like, well, I'm thinking like, okay, like if they offered you like $200, $250, $300, would you not go home weekends, like for the semester?
No, I'd want to go home if it was for the entire semester.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it's like 75 is like, I guess, a good like medium for just a week.
I could manage not going home for the entire semester, I think, because I'd still talk to my mom on the phone and FaceTime her and stuff, but I would need better food options to be forced to stay here and
That's
get paid.
True. But I mean, like,
at least have a kitchen, but then you need to go grocery shopping, so like.
But then technically, I guess, like, if you had that extra cash, you could also order in, I guess.
Yeah, I would order Uber a lot. That's true.
Yeah.
I already do that, so I guess it'd be nice to have somebody else pay for that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you'd waste all that money buying Uber Eats, and then you'd just get so much more unhealthy eating Uber Eats. So it's like the biggest lose-lose situation ever.
I think it's just funny that like the way that
you don't get it. I've been thinking about this for a while now. I've been thinking about all these different scenarios, and I'm just sitting here like, oh no, I'm kidding. No,
But I still don't get how they prove it though. Like I get the vaccine thing, like you can verify that, but how do they prove you don't leave? That's like Montclair too with the waiver that you have to sign, but they also don't know when you leave.
Maybe you have to show, like maybe you like have to be checked in by like an RA or something like that, or I don't know, but like also how is the university affording that? Because they're a huge university, and like that's like if Montclair was gonna pay us $75 to like
they would not afford
that. They can't afford that.
Yeah, that is my question, because I understand that $75, it's a good amount of money, and just per student, how do they know how many students are gonna stay to have the budget enough to pay for them? Like, not only that, I would say, but like you said, it's hard to regulate. How do you know if someone's not coming off of campus? They would have to have constant attendance. This would have to be like some sort of almost like a military camp, like just knowing like, okay, who's in, who's out. This constant monitoring could also take away from the fun of spring break. So like, I think it's also like a kind of opportunity knocks in like situation, like you could get paid, but you also have to be constantly monitored. So it's just kind of like, what do you risk?
That would annoy me. Constant like attendance. I don't know. I feel like I just couldn't. Even the hawk check annoys me. I mean, I do it every day, but
no,
do your hawk check, but.
I'm joking. The part, like, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I don't want to be military guarded. Like, how frustrating is it that it takes you like 10 minutes just to go to get to your dorm? Like, you know what's the worst one is I was, you know, when you're in a car and they ask you what number when you have to go to the bathroom? I was at like a straight up 10, and I was walking in. It's like, hold up, check your temperature, check my temperature. Hold up, show me your ID, do the ID thing. Hold up, show me your heart check. Show me your heart check. Hold up, take your mask off with the ID. I need to see you with the ID. Hold up, show me hawk check again. Make sure you did today. Hold up.
Okay, then.
I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I peed on the floor. I'm not gonna like that took so long.
So just so a little more info on this school doing this. It says to receive a gift card, students must apply by giving a basic description of their spring break plans. They must pledge to stay in town for their week-long break and complete a COVID-19 test. The university initially planned to give 750 such grants, but because of student interest, it upped the cap to 2,000. The anticipated $150,000 program will be paid through philanthropy and other university funds, not student fees or tuition. So that's just another like FYI of like what this about this.
I would also be annoyed if I had to fill out a form and tell them what I was doing. That I would literally be that lazy.
But if you're staying home and you're watching Netflix, you could be like, hey, I'm staying home and watching Netflix.
But oh my, it's like writing a scholarship for $75 about the plans for your spring break. It's like one of those prompts, like, oh, what do you plan if there was one thing you would change in the world? If one
but
thing
also,
it's like one of those things.
This is the one thing that annoys me about hawk check and like any of those other things you have to do for like work or going into a place with like those like test like form things. You could just lie.
Exactly.
Literally,
wait, I'm so sick of that. Montclair, like they sent an email and they were like, this is what happens if you don't complete your hawk check. And there was this little cartoon about how people go from, just transmitting it because they didn't complete their hawk check. And I was like, that makes no sense. And the whole reason was that they didn't complete it because they didn't want to be put in quarantine because of the symptoms they had. And I was like, that does not make sense. They could literally complete it and just lie. Like it does.
That's what I'm saying. Because the other thing is, and we'll move on after this, but what I will say is some days I just walk in and I have a headache and it's because allergies. It's because I didn't sleep. It's because like I'm dehydrated, whatever. And so like the fact that they'll say like, oh, do you have a headache? And then if you fill that out, it will say you can't come to school. And it's like, cool. Some days I just wake up and I have a headache or I have a sore throat. That happened pre-pandemic. That's like, you know what I mean? So I don't know. That's a little thing, but
I guess also with like the increased risk like of the coronavirus and like a lot of unknown in there, there's this heightened paranoia of just like, oh, any symptom could be the coronavirus symptom.
Yes. And like everybody's also assumes you will have a high fever, and you also might not have a fever. Some people I know literally just lost their taste and smell and did not have a fever at all. So I think that's something to also keep in mind, that like just because you're getting your temperature checked also doesn't mean like, oh, I'm definitely have the coronavirus or I definitely don't, because you don't need to have a fever. But anyways, with that, we are going to take a short break here on the Morning Buzz, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the Oscars. Stay tuned here on 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. And we are back here at 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey, and we are talking about the Oscar nominations. Yesterday, Monday, there was the Oscar noms announcement. So, Caitlin, you want to take it away?
Yes, I absolutely love award shows. It's just every single year. I really look forward to it. And I almost woke up at 8 a.m. yesterday just because I wanted to see the announcements. But then I was like, yeah, I'll just check it out later because it was just way too early for me.
It is too early.
Yeah, I did wake up though, but then I was just like, yeah, I'm going back to sleep. But anyway, so I'm so excited. Okay. You want me to name nominations? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can name nominations. I think we should just go through some of the top categories, and then we could talk about what we really want to talk about, which is the diversity of this year's candidates as well.
Yes. So when I actually ended up waking up, I looked at the nominations, and from the first second, I noticed already that there was a lot more people of color nominations, which made me very happy. And then later on in the day, I saw more articles about it and stuff like that. But for Best Picture, we have The Father, which I feel like I don't know which movie that is, but The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Judas and the Black Messiah was really good. I don't know if anybody saw that, but that was a really good movie.
Okay, yeah.
And then we also have Best Director. So for Minari, Promising Young Woman, Mank, Nomadland, Another Round. Best Actor, Riz Ahmed, Chadwick Boseman, which makes me so sad. It hurts my heart, but God bless him. Anthony Hopkins, Gary Oldman, Stephen Yeun, and Best Actress Viola Davis. I love Viola Davis. And Andra Day, Vanessa Kirby, Frances McDormand. Oh, I didn't even know she was in that movie. She was nominated again.
She is.
Oh, good for her. Carey Mulligan, Best Supporting Actor, Sacha Baron Cohen, Daniel Kaluuya, who was really good in the Judas and the Black Messiah. I know people had some comments about his accent, the way he does it, and I guess it's hard to understand, but he just does it so well throughout the entire movie. So consistent. Such a great actor. Leslie Odom Jr., Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah as well. Guys, watch that movie. Best Supporting Actress, Maria Baklava, Glenn Close, Olivia Colman, Amanda Seyfried, this is her first Oscar nomination. So that's exciting because I feel like we've all seen her in lots of different types of movies. So Amanda Seyfried, and then Yoo Jung-yoon for Minari. So those are just like some of the top ones. I think those are kind of the ones most people are familiar with, even though there's a ton of categories. But for diversity, let me get the numbers that I have here.
This was like a record-breaking year with diversity, I feel like, because as most people know when they watch award shows, and especially sometimes the Oscars, it's very white male-centered. And this year, it's a little different, which is kind of exciting.
No, they had that whole hashtag Oscars so white. And I mean, rightfully so. It definitely is. It always has been.
Important to note, too, that they were one of the ones last year during the Black Lives Matter protests and such that actually announced that they are going to be starting certain categories. I think it was by 2022 it was going to start to be in place, where they were supposed to be able to they have to each film that wants to be nominated has to meet certain requirements when they start filming and casting, which was an interesting decision made by them too. So, but that's obviously not all affiliated with this year because it's starting, I think, officially next year. But anyways,
but I mean, there was some conflict with that too.
Wait, you didn't know that, Ben?
Oh, wait, no, I know the thing, but what? Like, you have to do what to get
there's going to be certain requirements to be nominated, by the Academy, where it's going to be you have to have a certain amount of this group of people, or if you have to do this or you have to do that to be nominated. There's a whole list of rules that came out. I'm going to see if I could get it real quick.
I understand that, I think it's great that, but what? It sounds, wouldn't you, what? I kind of, you get, it's more of just I completely think, but there are just certain movies that you don't want any white people on the set. And there's some movies that, there's just movies that certain, you know what I mean? It's I don't think it should matter how many people you have on the set. I think you want the right people on set. So I think there are movies where I am useless in, and then there are movies where I'm extremely useful, and it has nothing to do with how I look or anything. It's just my movie aspect, my performance mind. That should be what they care about. That's the thing. It should be what you bring to the table as a film perspective, no matter who you are, especially if you're behind the camera, because sometimes you have to look the part. I can only play a person that looks similar to how I look. That's just how being in front of the camera is. But being behind the camera, it should just be who has the most mindset of the direction of the film, no matter what you look like. I think if you go and force that's a possibility that's just my mindset, is that a great movie.
Here's an example of where they were talking about. I found an article about where it was talking about what I was talking about. This is from Vox.com. It says the first category of standards, which the Academy calls Group A, deals with the stories or characters on the actual screen in the category. Movies must have one of the following: at least one lead or significant supporting character from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group, or at least 30% of cast in secondary and minor roles from two underrepresented identity groups, or a main storyline or subject that centers on an underrepresented identity group. So basically, it's saying it has to have one of those things to be as one of the requirements to be considered. So if you're not gonna have a lead or significant supporting actor that is from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group, then you must have at least 30% of the cast is secondary, and secondary or minor roles are underrepresented identity groups, if that makes any sense.
I would have to agree that it's good that they do give choices, and that they do want this diversity. They want more people to be on this. They want more stories to be heard from a range of people and audiences. And I agree that this is a very good innovation and this helps us move forward. But the only thing I would have to go back to play devil's advocate and go back to what Ben said also too, that such things could also take down many stories that are coming out and that many stories that should be heard. And I feel that this goes for a range of people, not just like when it comes to people of color, there's so many different minority groups that are underrepresented, and there's so much intersectionality that goes into play that I feel now with any modern story that we produced, it's very difficult to avoid any of these groups. So in a way, we have so many opportunities to show all these stories. And nowadays, like, we have so many different angles from so many different cultures, backgrounds, all these people that are like coming together, creating, allowing their voices to be heard, that it's just hard even to miss that opportunity unless someone would be specifically trying to get out of the way of actually hiring more people coming from diverse backgrounds. So I feel, while I completely agree with you, Ben, that it's important to like preserve, to have the main story concept, to not destroy it with, I would say, political aspects of trying to force diversity, trying to add diversity. It's also very hard to avoid in our modern day because people are curious. Not only is it the producers themselves who feel they have so many amazing ideas in these stories to increase this greater awareness of either whether it's racism or injustice or different social political issues right now, but yes, so that not only is it so easy to include that, but also the audience craves this because we've seen so many, I would say, whitewashed films. We've seen so many culturally biased films that now people are open to diversity. They want to see something more international. They want to see something coming from somewhere else, different cultures, or showing us the world through a different perspective. So I would say I do like this innovation, and I feel that we think it's more forced than it seems.
I also do want to note this isn't like the only thing. There's obviously things that have to do with the creative and production team, and there's standards for paid training opportunities like internships and stuff that they have to follow and stuff like that. But I will note, so they did give examples in this article about saying like so looking at last year's winners and such and looking at what they did and would they be fulfilled. So a movie like The Irishman, if you look at it, it didn't look like it fulfilled any of the requirements, but because of their production side of things, there was people in underrepresented groups, there was women, there was all that stuff. They fit the bill and it's okay. Also, something like Little Women also fit the bill because it was a movie based on women and that was a whole thing. And there you go. So it might seem like, oh, we have to be so specific, but it's like there's already things being done. So that's two movies from last year that are completely different, by the way, and they were both fit the bill. But anyway, I do want to get back to the main point of what we were talking about. I just wanted to throw that in there because we were talking about the diversity thing. So, Caitlin, do you want to continue going on about what else got nominated this year that's diverse? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I know that when that came out, I think last semester, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember talking about it in my classes, and I know a lot of people brought up the issue of tokenism, and that was kind of a big thing as well. But I really think it kind of just depends on the story, and I think that's what it comes down to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, back to the nominations. So, but also we're seeing the results of these
already being
for the first time, which is interesting because I don't think there's never been an Oscars nomination list award ceremony that has been this diverse so far. So, I mean, I guess we could say it's working because we can kind of see it in the, but I think it really just depends on the story, like what story you're trying to tell.
I mean, that's true, but I also, if you look at it from a different angle too, you could say, like, I'm going to jump down on our list that we have here from AP, and it said this was the first year we had 2 women nominated in the director category, and there's only been 5 women ever nominated before in that category. Ever.
Crazy.
And you're telling me that I'm telling you as a guarantee there has not been just 5 women directors that are out there in film world. And maybe some of them aren't the greatest, and you could say the same thing about men though, but where was that line, I guess, if you know what I mean?
I would have to agree with that many people say that there's like, oh, now there's so much like of this diversity, inclusion, that it's very big and broadcast and expressed, but many people don't realize that like a lot of these groups, a lot of these people weren't able to express themselves or have the opportunities they do have now.
Exactly.
And it's important to remember that while they're being very like people are being very loud, like I wouldn't say loud about it, but being very proclaimed about it in the media, that this is such a prominent event, that we have women, we have people of color now in the media, and we have now people creating all these films, because not too long ago we did not have this opportunity. Not too long ago people weren't able to do this. So there is a lot of awareness now being brought about this, and a lot of people are becoming more alert to the fact that a lot of these things were kind of biased, because it was, I just have to say, a pretty male dominated industry.
Yeah, it is definitely. But also, I just want to mention the best animated feature. I don't know if any of you have seen these movies, but I saw a couple of them. Onward, Over the Moon, a Shaun the Sheep movie, Soul, and Wolfwalkers. Soul was really cute.
I saw Soul and Onward.
You saw Soul?
Yeah,
Soul and Onward. I feel like those are the main ones people saw.
Also, real
Onward's gas. Onward's gas.
With the Soul thing, I will say Disney's like hitting a lot more harder with like the harder subjects to deal with, and I would not recommend that to a child to watch, because I feel like that was very like hard to comprehend for like, how does a kid comprehend that story, you know what I mean, at like 10 years old or something? Like,
does that involve
Soul was a
Pixar?
lot.
Is that one a Pixar one?
Yes.
Pixar's just trying to make you cry. I'm at the point where Pixar's like makes a movie and we're like, how much can we make them cry? Like that's like, I think the first idea is like they all sit down at the table and they're like, all right, we're gonna make them cry. How do we do it again? Like that's also like all they do.
It's like in Disney
too,
when they kill off the parents of someone.
Yes.
And it's like,
and then
so they're like, how are we gonna kill off the parents?
In a corner, like. That's their goal. They just want you to be sad, and they have these like hidden adult meanings. So adults start crying, and then it just sad music and a person crying in a corner. So like the kids start crying, and then everyone starts crying, and then I'll never forget the infamous line, because my brother's like super manly when he's not, but like he tries to be super manly. You know those Pixar shorts?
Yeah,
we're sitting there because we have to watch Incredibles too. Like, because I don't care how old we are, we're watching Incredibles too.
It's Bao. Is that the one?
Bao. Tears.
Ow! And my brother is sobbing right next to me.
I was sobbing too.
One. Just sobbing right next to me because of the hidden meeting, and like you just hear me go, wow. Like I'm like, wow. And then I look and I'm like, wow. And he's just like, I hate Pixar, and he's like crying.
No, it's the hidden meaning sketch.
What I admire Pixar and Disney for, especially modern day, is that they find these creative ways to tell us these kind of deeper messages through these various stories. And while they're shown to children, they also hit adults like in a very particular way. So in a way, they're diversifying their audience in a very creative manner. And I think this is very clever, but also like, it's just mind-blowing how such stories could convey such messages. And for me, like as a viewer, I'm just amazed.
Yeah,
I'm great with all these messages, but I'd rather just kind of laugh for the next hour and a half watching like SpongeBob blow bubbles, and like I'd rather that than start crying.
While we were talking about all those films, though, I do want to get back onto what we were talking about the diverse panel this year. And the few things I just want to mention before we move on with this was Steven. I'm gonna butcher some names, so I apologize to any of the actors I'm gonna mention, or anybody. Steven Yeun was also nominated this year, which means he's the first Asian American to be nominated for Best Actor. So killing it right there.
Yeah, and then there's also somebody who's the first person of Pakistani descent to be nominated in acting category, which is just so exciting. But overall, there were 9 actors of color nominated, I think it said, and that was amazing, because it really is so rare. And when you look back and compare it, it's kind of crazy. And also just like all those new rules coming into play, because it really has like tripled compared to other years.
I think that's awesome to see. And I know I was seeing articles everywhere saying it was like the most diverse year ever, like, because even ever, like it's nuts.
It really has, though. And I feel like we're gonna see that too. Like, I'm excited to watch the ceremony. I watch the Oscars every year, but there's also, so out of that, 6 Black actors nominated as well, which is awesome. There were 4 nominations received by the Nomadland director Chloe Zhao, and it's just like a record for women this year. There are 2 women in the directing category, which has never happened. So that's another big thing. The first time 2 women have been nominated, so that's great.
And then looking at what I was going to say was looking at, Caitlin, I know we were discussing this earlier about last year's, like even like the jump from last year of how nuts the changes were. I mean, we were looking at most of the films last year were white actors, and then except for Parasite was one of the only ones that was like kind of like the more diverse film of the running.
And well-deserved best picture.
Oh, well-deserved best picture for sure. I don't know if the 2 of you guys got to catch that one, but that was a really great film that I've now watched like 6 times.
I must say, I've seen that movie, and I was also like this is one of those other aspects that I'm just like really happy to see, that these other countries, these other cultures could put out such amazing, compelling stories. And I remember like during Parasite, I was on the edge of my seat, just the way it was filmed, the relationships, like the whole dynamic was so cleverly put together.
I completely agree. Wait, Ben, what were you gonna say?
It was good. It was just my thing about the Oscars. First of all, Parasite was really good. I enjoyed it. But I'm just gonna put that like that's it. But why are all the movies that get nominated, like, I'm sorry, but like Avengers, like all of those movies not getting any noms?
Because they have a thing about that.
I think that is absolute. That shivers my timbers. It rustles my feathers. It's just so ridiculous how all these Marvel movies, all these superhero movies, all these great action
haven't you heard that they don't respect those films as much?
It's just bougie.
The only Marvel film that has been highly praised, by the way, like from the Academy, was Black Panther. Yes, Black Panther. And that I think that was the year they were starting to get more like hate for the diversity and not getting the diversity, to be honest.
Black Panther was good. Black Panther is
I'm not saying it wasn't, but I'm saying like that was like the first time.
Avengers Endgame doesn't get known. Like that's the #1 movie.
Okay, Black Panther's like top 3.
By like so
Black Panther's
far.
amazing, but
what I will say about just because I feel like I'll keep letting Ben rant about his feelings.
It just shivers my timbers every time and then they'll be like, and those guys will all be like because it's not an actual movie, and then I'll be like, what?
Are you quoting
like
Martin?
10 times more money than your movie did?
Are you
like
quoting Martin Scorsese when you say that? Because he did say that he thought that superhero movies weren't real movies.
You go sit down with your trophies while like Robert Downey Jr. makes more money than you've ever dreamed of because of his non-movie. Good for you, buddy.
One more note I want to say about the diversity, and just because of the change, because we were talking about Parasite from last year and then seeing all these other nominations this year. I was in, I'm a theater major here at Montclair, and I was in a theater class last semester, and I have a Korean history of theater teacher. And I remember the day after the Oscars so well, because she was so happy. Because she told our class, we watched some of the videos of the acceptance speeches, and she said to us, she's like, I really never thought I would see people like me on a stage here in America. And that, like, I was crying like the rest of the day. Like, I made a whole status about it because it was so sweet to see that that's like, she felt represented in some way that she never thought. She had saw the film back in Korea, and she never thought a film like that would be popular here in the US, and then it won Best Picture. So I think that's something to keep in mind when we're looking at these nominations going forward, that people are now feeling represented, and it's something to look forward, especially just with this Academy changes. I know it might seem weird that like they're all of a sudden happening, but I'm proud to say that like I'm seeing my friends be proud that they're seeing people on stage that are representing their culture and their people, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And even when the director for Parasite won and he said, if you can get over like reading captions, you open yourself up to a whole new
Yes.
world of films. And I think that's something that's so important.
And I'm gonna be the first, probably not the first to say this, but with watching it, I think I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, how am I gonna do a whole film like this? Because I haven't really done that. But I challenged myself. Me and my roommate watched it last year, and I have now watched it multiple times since because I've enjoyed it so much.
It's
So
so
I think
good.
that's a really important thing to keep in mind, that like you could just get over that. It's just like few words on a
Yeah.
screen. And
All right, hear me out. Hear me out. Amanda might be not the majority on this one, but just saying, what would you rather watch? A movie like Parasite in that kind of drama, Irishman, one of those, or I mean, this is for the second time, or would you rather watch like Avengers again, or
well,
Black
I would not.
Panther
I
again,
can't. I can't
Or
first
choose
of all, you
that.
can't compare
again.
the two. Second of all,
or
I've actually
Star
never
Wars again,
I've never
or
seen
this again?
I've never
It's-
seen Avengers. I only saw the first one. I'm getting through.
Amanda.
I
Amanda,
know,
you've
I'm
never
getting
seen
through.
Avengers.
I'm never get. I'm getting through it right now. I saw WandaVision, and now I'm going back and watching
No,
everything.
you don't know. That's like starting. No, you don't know.
I saw
How
the
did you
first
watch
Avengers
WandaVision
movie.
and you've never seen
Because I've
Avengers?
seen the other parts of the series, but no, we're not going to get off
Okay,
topic
okay.
on this. But basically,
Whatever.
I have never
you
seen
just-
Avengers Endgame. I know what happens in Avengers Endgame, and I'm not spoiling it for anybody that hasn't seen it at this point, but I know
It's
what
like
happens
2
in it.
years old. You can spoil it. It's 2 years old.
Anyways, I have not seen Avengers Endgame, but I would rather watch Parasite because that's just how I feel. I've with other
No.
superheroes.
I would
You've
not be able.
lost your
I can't
mind.
choose movies like that. I need to. I like watching everything, especially. And they're just so different.
You would choose Avengers.
I.
You just don't want to. You don't want to admit it. You don't want to
Ben,
admit it.
You know, this
no,
really
that
depends.
is not true.
Okay, but wait.
Oh,
I will say,
I will
I
pull
will
out the
say,
index finger too.
I saw all the best pictures last year. If it was comparing it to like Parasite or Joker, I would obviously pick like those. But if it was comparing it to
I
something
didn't
like
Joker.
I liked Joker a lot. If it was comparing it to something like more like Ford v Ferrari, or I don't know, even like Jojo Rabbit or one of those other ones, like I would totally probably choose Avengers over that,
understandable.
because like some of the ones that I was not as interested in or invested in, like Parasite or like 1917 or one of those ones, I would have probably picked Avengers.
I don't know.
Or
I think there's too
Irishman
many
too.
factors.
Irishman, that was the one I was thinking of. Irishman, it took me like so many times to finish that movie.
It took me 3 watches.
Literally.
I had to pause.
Yeah, but Avengers is long too. Like
Yeah,
I would
you
watch
could say-
Black
Yeah, but it's like a
Panther.
good long. It's a good long.
Yeah, I guess, but
Movies
I need to
like-
watch that in the daytime or I would fall asleep.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, the movies are hard to compare because like movies like Avengers, action movies, action adventure films, sci-fi fantasy, we often watch them also for the effects, for the dynamics,
Yes.
costume design, and it's hard to and we often watch it because it's entertaining. While these other films that are Academy nominated have these deeper stories, deeper like acting, all these elements that come to it that give us just, I would say, this profound and like I would say mind-shifting experience. So it really depends what you're going for. If you like something entertaining, something that makes you laugh, cry, a little bit of both, and that just like like if you like that aspect of fantasy as well, then you should watch a movie like Avengers or
Yeah.
watch
I know.
like
I recommend you rewatch Michael B. Jordan's performance of Killmonger, or you rewatch
it is
Robert
a very
Downey
good
Jr.'s
performance
as Iron Man,
I
or
will.
you rewatch.
It is very good, Ben.
James
Nobody's
Earl
saying it's
Jones
bad. It's
Ben, I'm not
great.
saying
Darth
it's not
Vader before he
good.
come back
It's
to be his
amazing.
acting.
They're amazing, Ben.
But here's the thing, though. If you're not into superheroes or whatever, too, because like I'll give an example that like I was just watching WandaVision with my mom. My mom's not a huge superhero fan, but we enjoyed the show because it was a different aspect of that. But like if you're not into superheroes, you might be more into a film like The Irishman. But I'm gonna say we couldn't get through Irishman, so like that's just preference, you know. And I think that you can't compare the two.
I just want to say one more thing before we end. I'm very excited to watch Minari because I think it's a very important story, and I'm probably gonna pay $20 to watch it because I don't know where else to watch it. And that's all. Very anticipated.
Basically, the ending of the discussion is diversity was huge this year at these Oscar noms, and we'll obviously be keeping you posted on when the Oscars happen, and we'll be like giving you all the updates and all that kind of stuff. But It is actually past the top of the hour at this point here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, New Jersey. This was a really awesome discussion. Thank you guys for having it with me today. And my name is Amanda Marino, and I was joined by the lovely
Caitlin Arisisawa.
And
Isa Winak.
And
I've been.
I didn't say bin today.
I know. I had to keep it going, so I guess I don't want to let it go. Like,
all right. Well, you have been listening to the Tuesday edition of the Morning Buzz. If you missed anything or you want to check out more of the Buzz specifically, if you're interested, we are on Facebook, YouTube, and also now on Spotify at the Morning Buzz under podcasts and stuff. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again tomorrow, or we'll hear from you again tomorrow here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, New Jersey.